5,000 alumni from more than 100 countries. And that includes space professionals, companies, and space agencies, and many more. So as you know, we rely increasingly on space assets for our economy and our everyday lives. And the booming space sector provides really ample opportunities for exciting endeavors, interesting jobs, and offers great future opportunities for ISU students and space professionals. And when you are part of ISU, you will be also really able to develop and boost your career and make new connections worldwide. So we start our event today with a plenary session. A number of distinguished speakers, who I will introduce in a minute, will share their insights about ISU and space education. And you will then meet our faculty and alumni and learn more about the different ISU programs and courses. You can explore the connections ISU has around the world and hear about the entrepreneurial opportunities and activities at ISU. And in the last part of the event, you can join interactive parallel breakout sessions and discuss with faculty, alumni, entrepreneurs, and space professionals. So we are really delighted that you are joining our virtual open day at ISU, in particular in these unprecedented times. And you will discover and learn what ISU has to offer and why now is actually the perfect time to receive an interdisciplinary space education. So we wish you all a great experience and hope that you will participate in one of the ISU programs or courses in the near future. So now I want to introduce our distinguished panel members to you. First, Bob Richards. He's one of the 3 founders of the International Space University, and he's also the CEO of Moon Express. Jean-Yves Legal is the president of the French space agency CNES, and he has sent us a video recording because I think he's also speaking at the COSPA meeting right now simultaneously. Elodie Viau, the director of telecommunications and integrated applications of the European Space Agency, and she is also an ISU alumni. Val Munsami, he's the CEO of the South African National Space Agency, SANSA, and he's also the chair of the Administrative Committee on Developing Countries and Emerging Committees. I like so much to say that ACDCEC, yeah, is the name of the committee of the International Astronautical Federation. So we have Jim Green, who is currently the NASA chief scientist and former director of the Planetary Science Division at NASA headquarters. And we have Chris Sallerberger, an ISU veteran, president and CEO of Canadian Swiss Aerospace Corporation, and also the chairman of the board of the International Space University. So we are very happy to have you all with us today. All of our panel members will give a short statement, and then we will have some time for discussion. And please, for all the participants, ask your questions in the chat box. So Bob, we are starting with you.
Well, thank you, Pascal. It's wonderful to be here meaning among we humans here on the planet. And I guess it's here is a sense of perspective, and maybe that's the theme of my introductory remarks. It's always so wonderful to hear amazing people like Pascal, and we'll be hearing from Juan and others on this committee, speak with such passion, authority, and accuracy about what ISU is and what the vision is supposed to be. It wasn't always that way. And we're all surrounded by some of these posters that are capturing the early visions of International Space University when we were trying to communicate what it was going to be, what it needed to be for this planet to help bring together amazing people who have a passion for helping each other and for utilizing space as empowerment to bring unity and diversity and inclusiveness and a sense of oneness to the planet to begin with, and then to with that more mature outlook on ourselves to take that forward to the planets and the stars as humanity progresses. And when we first started communicating this vision, Peter Dan Mendes, Todd Hawley, and myself to begin with, joined by now thousands of amazing people who now get it, there wasn't an internet to begin with. So part of the reason, so how do you find this amazing camaraderie of people around the planet who share this vision? So ISU in many ways was created certainly as a platform to educate in an interdisciplinary environment, and intercultural, yes, and international and intergenerational and interplanetary and everything else, and all the eyes that we will have for ISU. But it was created as a beacon, as a shining beacon that would attract people to each other. And with all of the help of the amazing people that you'll be hearing from today, including our faculty and some people from our board and our staff and everyone who's participating as an alumnus, we are achieving that vision. And it's just so amazing to have International Space University as a very positive microcosm of what's best in humanity. And every time we have a program, whether it's the SSP or an executive course or any one of the wonderful programs that we put on at ISU, we're able to amplify this message and bring new people into we call it a family, because it really is a family, an extended family, and it's one that's benefited me personally, emotionally, and professionally throughout my professional career. And I know, and I hear from many people that every time they touch ISU or participate in ISU, it's a life-changing experience, one that just isn't a moment in your life, but actually continues forward. So thank you for including me at the beginning of this. It's just so rewarding. I'm going to look forward to hearing all of the wonderful presentations after this. But Pascal, back to you, and thanks to all of you for carrying on the ISU vision so fantastically.
Thank you very much, Bob. That was a really message from one of the founders. And I think the word which really are the two words which resonate really, it's an extended family, the ISU. And I'm sure we will talk about that a little bit more. I think we will have now a video from Jean-Yves Le Gall, the president of the French Space Agency. And I ask kindly that we are playing that right now.
Dear friends, I am very glad to be invited to speak at the virtual Discover ISU event, and I would like to welcome all of you taking part. CNES and ISU are long-standing partners. We are working together in many ways, the most significant being to fund a CNES share for a lecturer and researcher at ISU and the provision of CNES grants. This partnership alone is, I feel, a testament to the relationship of mutual respect and trust that binds our two organizations. Indeed, I would say that CNES and ISU share a common vision sustained by three ambitions. First, international cooperation. International cooperation is in CNES DNA since we are conducting almost all of our programs with European and international partners. The multiplayer effect of cooperation is clear, for by working together on missions, we can obviously do more and better than we can alone. But besides this lever effect, we believe at CNES that space offers solutions to meet the major challenges now facing society, which know no frontiers, calling more than ever for shared responses and commitments. I know that ISU shares the same conviction, offering students the unique opportunity to work with professionals from other horizons and cultures. Second, multidisciplinarity. The corollary of this international vision is multidisciplinarity, for it is by combining talents and energies that we will accomplish ever more ambitious goals. CNES teams are made up of women and men from all horizons: engineers, legal people, communicators, international relations specialists, and accounting experts, to name a few. The successes we have achieved together stem from this rich and diverse pool of skills. We have one of the best space launch bases in the world at the Guyana Space Center. We are going to Mars with NASA with the Perseverance rover and inventing the Earth observation and telecommunication satellites of tomorrow. The same fundamental value obviously underpins everything that ISU is doing, enabling its students to experience all aspects, both technical and not technical, of space culture, and in a word, to build the space programs of the future. Third, education. All of this is predicated on the ability to assimilate what the space sector is all about, all the way down the value chain from infrastructures to applications. This is precisely ISU's objective. For a young person just starting off on their career in space, or an older person deciding to move into this sector, ISU's courses are designed to help them become consummate space professionals, allowing them to acquire, develop, and use a precious and long-lasting network. CNES and ISU share this education mission, as CNES has a dedicated structure geared towards getting young people into science and engineering since its inception. International cooperation, multidisciplinarity, and education have been the secrets of ISU's success for many years, with courses that have earned it renown across the space community. And in conclusion, I would underline that many of the people I work with in the world of space, be it top officials at space agencies and manufacturers or research scientists, are former alumni of ISU. So, why not you?
Yeah, that was a very nice message of from Jean-Yves Le Gall, the president of the French Space Agency. CNES is really supporting ISU since many, many years. And I think he has shown a little bit what it actually can bring in the space sector if you have an ISU education. So we are coming to the next statement of the next speaker, and that will be Elodie Vaux. She is very recently has been appointed as the Director for Telecommunication and Integrated Applications at the European Space Agency. And she is, I think, the only female director at ESA. And she is an ISU alumni, so there is a lot to talk about. So the floor is yours, Elodie.
Thank you very much, Pascal. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you today. As you say, I'm the ESA Director for Telecommunication and Integrated Application at the European Space Agency. I'm also the head of the European Center for Satellite Application and Telecommunication based in the UK for the European Space Agency. And again, it's a real pleasure to be with you and to share my experience. And if you can create motivation and encouragement for, as you said, women and also from gender diversity, but also cultural diversity, because we need all of you in the space sector. So bringing an international space university alumni, I can assure you that it will become a huge asset throughout your professional career. I'm the first one to have been benefiting of this. I was in your shoes, maybe thinking, shall I apply to ISU some time ago? And 12 years later, here I am. I have been in the satellite operation, SES, it's another key players. I've been given the opportunity to go for the manufacturing of satellite, launching satellite, but also looking at the business aspect of space, and therefore I can assure you that whatever is your background, there is a space for you in the space community. And ESA, the European Space Agency, and we are counting on you to define the future of what it will be. Throughout ISU, you will acquire the unique skill set of international, multicultural, and multidisciplinary environment. It will be not always easy and stress-free for sure, but through learning to work together as a team, that's what you will learn in ISU, and you will learn about the others and about yourself. So it can be challenging, but it's definitely worth the reward. So this huge network that you will build during your ISU study will be a significant asset, and the relationship that you will form will grow throughout your career. And as Jean-Yves Le Gall was mentioning, there is many ISU alumni that we meet along the way, and it developed quickly.
Elodie, we lost your voice. You're muted.
Is it better? Okay,
Definitely.
something. Okay, a technical incident. Sorry about that. So it's a telecommunication, you know, sometimes it's like that. So this strong network, I was saying, that will be helping you all the way. And creative ideas and inputs are always needed. So space is about innovation. We are looking for pioneers. The COVID did affect all of us, and maybe you in your study or in your current professional career. And therefore, the space has a solution to provide, because being in telecommunication, Earth observation, human robotic exploration, or science or technology, and therefore we need a business skill set, legal skill set, technology skill set. So therefore, to overcome, as was mentioned also by Mr. Jean-Yves Le Gall, the global pandemic. So European Space Agency is super, and myself on the behalf, we are very happy to support ISU, because that's like that we will get new ideas and new students that will come afterwards. I just want to give the opportunity to say that we are having interns coming from ISU, also young graduate training that can join. And of course, we are always looking for new partners or new employee at the European Space Agency. So please check out the website and join us in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Elodie. And that was a direct job offer already, huh? Somehow.
Well, if I may say, we just opened the YGT in February, so that's really yes. If your alumni are looking at it, so it's really concrete. That's what the message that I wanted to give.
YGD is the Young Graduate Training,
yes.
from ESA for the ones which are not familiar. And I think it was also important that you mentioned, which we will discuss also certainly during the day, that whatever your background is now for the participants, it is not so important, because we know that space is a part of our daily life and has a lot of spillover effects. And I think that's an important message. Thank you very much, Elodie. And I'm coming to Val now. Val Monsami, he's the CEO of the South African National Space Agency, SANSA. Val, to you.
Thanks, Pascal, and thanks for having me here. I think the most important point about this narrative is that I'm also an ISU alumni, SSP 2009 NASA Ames. So what I wanted to do in this conversation is to provide a sort of a prelude to my career path. And I want to demonstrate how the ISU experience and learning sort of intersects with this path along the way. And I want to categorically demonstrate how this is central to even my own personal development, and I'm assuming that will apply to others. So I started my career in the sciences, so pursuing my doctoral studies, going to academia, lecturing, conducting research in space physics, and that kind of underpins my science experience. And then I went off into government, working in the non-proliferation domain, looking at control of dual-use technologies. And there I got a sense of a highly regulated environment. And then I joined our sort of national science funder, which is like the NSF, and I was managing our science and technology sort of international relations. And we have about over 30 science and technology bilaterals, multilaterals, including the International Council for Sciences, which has over 30 different chapters, different disciplines. And that provided a broad sense into sort of the international relations and also working across multidisciplinary domains. And then I joined the government department, science and technology. So I managed the development of South Africa's national space policy, space strategy, and that gave me experience in developing policies and strategies. And then I climbed up into the department. I became the deputy DG, research and development and innovation. And I worked with IP, innovation, biotech, health, energy, and then also space and astronomy. And in this portfolio, I also was instrumental in setting up a number of institutions. And that gave me insight into the governance and the macro structures of organization. And when South Africa won the bid for the square kilometer, I became the chief specialist for astronomy. And I oversaw what I call a mega project. So it's a mega scientific project. And in this role, I also sort of looked into the African space policy strategy. And that gave me experience in terms of formulation of policy and strategy at a continental level. And then in 2017, I became the head of space agency. Now, why is that all important in terms of where I am now? And the point I wanted to make is, in your job as a head of a space agency, you deal with multiple issues at the same time on a daily basis. And the quality of your decision is limited by your experience. So if you limit your experience, you also limit your ability to make decisions, quality decisions. And a broad technical experience also does allow you to provide you with more effective leadership in a sense, because then you're intersecting with people from different technical backgrounds, different skill sets and so on. So coming back through to the ISU in terms of the interdisciplinarity point of view, you engage in space medicine, space engineering, talking to astronauts, the regulatory aspect, the space business part. And all that does, it helps you to deep dive into these various domains, which also extends your knowledge experience. And that provides you, in terms of as you go along your career path, with a level of confidence to sort of speak with authority. And then from an international point of view, in terms of the international aspects, it also bolsters your appreciation of the international space landscape. You get insights in terms of working with people from different international institutions. And then from an intercultural point of view, because you're engaging with people from all across the world. So you have this experience of different cultural backgrounds, but also professional backgrounds, because in the program I was, they have artists, lawmakers. So it also helps with the diversity of ideas from different disciplines in the program itself. And just from a South African perspective, we have 11 official languages with 4 different ethnicities. So it's very diverse background. And in the organization, we have 40% of our staff are women and 60% of our executives are women as well. So I was trying to give you a sense that experience in the ISU with the SSP actually helped me to build that confidence and that leadership ability to have that level of authority. And I thank the ISU experience for that. Thank you, Pascal.
Thank you very much. Well, this was an amazing, a stepwise approach through your career, and I think this must have been very inspiring for people. Thank you very much for these for these details. And also 2009 NASA Ames. I don't know. I just remember I was teaching the Mars caves, at this school. So that was the summer schools, the space programs, are always very, very important, and I think they give you also networks for life. So I'm coming now to Chris Sallerberger, who I introduced already before. He's not only a CEO, but he is also the chairman of the board of ISU, and really, a part of the ISU since I can think of many, I think decades. So please, Chris, the floor is yours.
Pascal, thank you for that introduction. Following on what you said, I think Juan, the president of ISU, likes to call me as one of the dinosaurs of ISU. And it's true, I've actually taught at every of the SSP programs in ISU's history, but for the first one where I was a student. So I was a student in 1988 in that very first class at MIT that hosted that first ISU session. And so I've had over the years quite some experience to discuss with ISU students and alumni in various capacities and try to identify what is the real value they're getting out of the ISU programs. And perhaps just to share that with you, when we ask that question, when students are just graduating from an ISU program, we get quite a variety of responses, and we'll hear about the great courses and the programs that they've learned about the engineering and the technical aspects and business and policy and law and all those wide disciplinary areas of space. And we've heard a little bit about the benefit of that career-wise from Val and from Elodie and others today. But when we asked that question 5 years later, after they finished their ISU program, or 10 years later, what is the real benefit for you? Almost always the answer is, the benefit for me career-wise is that fantastic network that I'm part of, that fantastic international space network. And one should mention that space is a very international field. And again, we've heard that already this morning, a few great examples of that. But it's not just a very international field, it's also, I would say, a relatively small field compared to many other sectors, aviation or automotive. Space is a much smaller field. And if you have the ability to spend your career in space, towards the end of your career, you will have that international network. You will have close friends that you've worked with all around the globe. And that will allow you to be very effective in the space field. And any of the panelists with me here would agree with that. But what ISU does, it gives you very early on in your career, when you do the ISU program, that international network. And that's just a tremendous advantage for you in a space career. If you're a researcher and you want to collaborate with someone or want to find out what was going on in that research activity, the other side of the globe, chances are you'll know somebody at that institute, or at least somewhere in that country or region that is working in space, who's a close friend of yours through the ISU. And you can call them up and they can make the introduction or provide you the information. The same goes if you're not an academic, but in the business field or at a space agency, you have that network you can take advantage of. And that's just such an advantage in careers. You can see it, and there's been a couple of mentions already of international space organizations like the IAF that holds big conferences. If you ever go to a large space conference and look at who are the people under the age of perhaps 30 or 40 that are doing great things in space, almost always, I would say 9 times out of 10, they're an ISU alum. And so with that, I leave you with that thought. There are tremendous advantages through the ISU programs for a career in space. And so if you're thinking about it, I would strongly encourage you to apply to ISU and to participate in one of their programs. Thank you, Pascal.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I think that also really has shown you how it's not only courses, it is also always the network which you build. And when you have a worldwide network, that really can boost your career. And I think that we will discuss also later on together with the faculty and a lot of alumni which will take part in the later program of today. So I'm not 100% sure. I think Jim Green will either come later or has problems to connect. So I actually wanted to start to ask you some questions. And there is one question which is obviously has to go to Bob Richards. So there was a recent survey among the ISU students, and they showed that more than 60%, I think it was 67%, of ISU students want to gain experience in entrepreneurship. And they want to learn about it. They want to have practical experience in an incubator. What message do you have for them?
Well, thank you, Pascal. And by circumstance or by choice, I guess both, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. And we're living in a do-it-yourself world for the most part. And traditional, let's say, university education is not necessarily so set up to train you to be an entrepreneur. It's really set up for you to be sort of consumed by larger industry or government or agencies and things that exist. But I really encourage everyone, especially these days in space, although we have the wonderful accomplishments of ESA and NASA and all of those things that will never go away, the rock stars in the space industry are in the commercial space and doing amazing things that are pole vaulting humanity forward in ways that are just not possible with large bureaucratic organizations. So entrepreneurship is not an easy path, but by definition, if you're joining International Space University, you are above that bar of commitment and passion. And as you know, as Chris mentioned, and everybody is mentioning in the theme here, the connectivity that you will have to the network, part of the basis for success of entrepreneurship is the network that you need, right? And the people who will help you, because you can't do it all. And the ISU extended family will be there to help you. So I really encourage everyone to think about the entrepreneurial path. And when you come to programs, you'll hear from other entrepreneurs like Chris Selleberger and teach you about how to do space commercially. So it's a great path. It's a do-it-yourself world. We have the technology at our fingertips that presidents and of countries didn't have 20 years ago. We're connected to the world. So entrepreneurship is about pursuing your vision, your passion, empowering yourself with technology and other extended family like you get at ISU, and benefiting humanity in an amplified way that you couldn't otherwise do as being part of a bureaucratic organization. So go entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really great message. And also you will later today, you will have breakout groups and you will have more discussions with the faculty on all the activities and about the incubator, which is run here in Strasbourg. Thank you, Bob. So I have a question to Val. There is an increasing participation of new and emerging space countries. This is what we witness since a decade. And it is a question, is this 3I education as it is offered at the ISU, namely interdisciplinary education, internationally and also intercultural, is that actually relevant in the African space ecosystem?
Thanks, Pascal. I'm not going to say it's relevant. It's actually even more relevant than usual. By the way, there's a number of alumni that come from Africa. So I think from that perspective, it shows you that even Africa is well engaged in this program. Let me just take it out in terms of 3I. With regards to interdisciplinarity, I always show this, this world map, and I put Africa there, and you can fit the US, China, and the whole of Europe inside of Africa and still not equate to the landmass of Africa. So from a scale size of the problems we're dealing with, it's way bigger when you look at it from a global perspective. So when you're looking at it from an interdisciplinarity point of view, it becomes an even bigger challenge because then you have infrastructure issues, capacity issues. And so the ISU, the interdisciplinarity aspects of it definitely gets elevated from that respect, and also including the technology readiness level that we have from an African perspective. With regards to the international element of the 3Is, Africa has 55 different countries. So when you're talking about Africa, you're looking at 55 different countries. That in itself is an international perspective. And to get 55 countries with different political ambitions and so on to work together, that's a mind-boggling perspective from a governance perspective. And then also the intercultural issue. I don't have to even go there. I mean, you've got 55 countries. Even in South Africa, we've got 11 different tribal domains in the African culture. And if you take that into Africa, that's way more than 55. You've got to multiply that by many factors. So from an intercultural point of view, it's even at a greater scale that we're used to internationally. So definitely.
Thank you very much, Val. That was a great answer, and that you remember us. And I also remember how you have been working on this African space policy, and that you are, I think, the person which really knows most about it, and you are also an important contact point for that. We have some questions coming in actually but I'm still sorting them out. So in the meantime, I would like to ask Elodie, if you could hire employees that have received an ISU education, what do you think could those ISU alumni bring to your department?
Yes, and thanks, Pascal, for this question. And I will link it to the question that you have asked to Bob about entrepreneurship. Because today it is true that the space is becoming more and more boosted by commercial, and the startups are helping the other more mature or bringing new ideas and innovation into the system. So when we are having a new employee with new ideas, it's because they have fresh ideas and new innovative mindset and entrepreneur mindset is much more than welcome. In my directorate, for example, we have a department that is about space solution that is taking care of the business incubator center of ESA. And you need to know that there is 60 business incubator of ESA that is creating an incubator network. And the one of ISU that you have on your campus is recognized to be one of them. And therefore, the entrepreneurship and the skill set that is linked to it is technology, technical, but also business profile is really interesting to join after within my team to support those business incubator center. So it's not only about technology, can be legal, can be, but it's a mix of everything together. And I think what is super great at ISU when you do the study is that you get the 360 degree of everything that can be in space. And space for Earth, or that is also not today. We were mentioning, Bob was mentioning, we have everything in technology. I need to show my cell phone with this virtual background. But so basically, yes, there is plenty of new applications that can be created thanks to the new technology, the cloud computing, the quantum computing that is coming very soon, 5G, 6G, artificial intelligence, and it's just to cite a few examples. So I think there is no limit to what you can imagine what will be the future.
Thank you very much, Elodie. I think this is a really good point, what's actually also possible, and that you have so many opportunities to be employed by space agencies, which are, also really expanding, their portfolio, but also industry and SMEs, and you can also be an entrepreneur and you can work together in this innovation ecosystem with all partners. So I have a last question, which I think is really important to Chris. And then we will take up the many questions which are coming in by the chat. We cannot take care of all of them. And I wanted to say that there are a lot of questions which are a little bit more practical, and I'm sure that all those questions will be answered because, of course, we are giving this to the faculty, which will then talk about the programs. So particular questions about COVID and what program will actually happen, we will discuss a little bit later. But there's one, I think, really important question I have for Chris. This is that we witness a growing space economy. We have a global space economy, which is valued at, I think, in 2020 at about $385 billion. And we have a vibrant industrial and public space sector with also unprecedented entrepreneurial leadership that what Bob already elaborated on. We have a lot of private investment, which actually also did not stop in the year 2020. We have also really very high investments in 2020. So is it not right now really a very, very good time to obtain a space education at ISU?
Yes, I think it's always a good time. I would say if you have an interest, a passion for space, you really need to look seriously at ISU as a place to get an education. But you're quite right. The space is becoming an increasingly important part of the global economy, and not just the space economy. We're seeing space impacting everyday lives of people more and more. And so the importance of space and the leverage that provides you to make an impact on the world is tremendous. And with that, I don't want to say that it has to be that you be an entrepreneur and start a space company, or there can be other paths to doing great things. leading a large existing space organization can give you perhaps even more impact. Having a role in the research world, or a role in an agency, but whatever it is you choose for that path, the benefit of that ISU program is that it gives you that broad perspective, and we've heard a little bit about that already. So maybe you're not going to be an entrepreneur, but it's increasingly important in the space world. So you need to understand what that is, what drives the entrepreneurs. You will be interacting with them. Maybe you're not going to be a space lawyer, but you have to understand about space law and its impacts, and be able to understand just the basic language that the space lawyers use. And so ISU gives you all that, the same business terminology, the technical terminology, life sciences, how do humans perform in space? Increasingly, human activities in space are becoming more and more important. Understanding what's going on at the high level just lets you be more effective, and lets you make those the correct decisions, and choosing your paths and partnerships properly. And I think Val said it best when he said, ISU gives you that broad background of knowledge that lets you be effective in what you do. And it's so important for the space world. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Chris. That's also an important answer. I have just got a message that Jim Green joined us. Jim Green is the NASA chief scientist at the moment, and he was long the former director of the Planetary Science Division at NASA headquarters, and has really looked over many wonderful space missions. Jim, are you here? Can you hear us? And would you be able to deliver a short statement?
Pascal, can you hear me? I am having struggling with.
Yeah.
All right, great. Yes, fortunately, I had a problem with my computer yesterday. Took it in, and they couldn't quite get it solved. So I'm switching to my home computer, which isn't properly set up. But let me quickly talk about a little bit of my experience. As a NASA employee, we're building instruments, we're integrating them, we're launching them, we're working with our centers, our suppliers, and
okay, I think we have lost you. Can you try again? So I think we probably, because we have a little bit of time crunch, we wait until Jim gets connected. In the meantime, I would like to look at one of the questions. What would ISU be in the next frontier of ISU? What innovative plans in terms of education and training do you have for the coming years? And how did ISU help in, okay, this is, I think we have heard that already in several things. So what are the next frontiers? Maybe we should actually ask the president, Juan de Dalmau, which is also here, or maybe Chris, or anybody else who wants to answer the question until we get a hold of Jim again.
Chris, please.
I was going to let you start, Juan, but I can offer a few thoughts, and maybe you want to add to that. Well, certainly ISU has always had the vision, and Bob Richards will know that, to expand beyond just offering education terrestrially, but even out in space. And ISU is starting to take those first steps with launching experiments into space and being part of that expansion of human presence into space. I think we're seeing that in the space world and in the global economy as well, where humanity is now really taking the first steps to expand out into space. The International Space Station was a great unifying activity around the world. Now we're seeing the global space activities focusing on the moon, establishing human presence on the moon, planning missions to Mars. I think that's where those are some of the exciting directions where the world is going. both from a government-led point of view, but also, as has been pointed out, from a private company point of view. You know, we've all heard about Elon Musk's plans to send humans to Mars. We see this close working together between industry and governments. So it's a very exciting world for space, and I think ISU is a perfect reflection of that, and a preparation to be involved in that world. But let me turn it back to our president.
Yes, indeed, Chris. And let me give an example of how we are really moving into space. This past summer, I mean the Northern Hemisphere summer, in July and August, we had close to 90 participants in a special course called the Interactive Space Program. And they were distributed virtually in 3 locations in the solar system. Some were on Earth orbit, about 30 of them, another third on the moon, and another third on their way to Mars. And this was a way to simulate how distributed teams could produce quality work and could really cooperate without ever touching each other or being in person, and really do research and make a report that they presented at the end of the 5 weeks. The topic was space and pandemics, and how would humanity be prepared for the next pandemic. So I think in a virtual way, we are teaching and learning how to live and work in distributed environments, independently of where we are physically. So that's one way to get closer to space. I hope we have answered more or less what you were asking, Pascal.
Yeah, I'm sure that there will be much more information, and for the rest of the day. I wanted to mention 2 things. I'm not sure if we can connect to Jim Green. It would be really important because he has so much to say. But if not, maybe he can be put later in the later parts of the program. But there are 2 things what I wanted to say when I am screening the questions from the chat, and they are very nice. And I think people enjoy very much our discussion. There is a lot of questions about entrepreneurship. Yeah, and it is there are questions like what entrepreneurs in space are looking to solve over the next 5 years. What sort of guidance actually will be given to ISU students. And I want to refer here, and there are several of those messages that always also reflects what I said before, and what Bob Richard and or the others said, that entrepreneurship is a very, very important topic. And you will have a breakout session later on, and you will also get messages from the faculty and information about this topic. So I have one final question, because I have a schedule, and I wanted actually to give this question to Jim Green, because I think it is really important, and we cannot ignore that 2020 was an unprecedented year in many aspects, but it was also an exciting year for space exploration. We had the first operational SpaceX commercial Crew 1 mission to the International Space Station. We have had sample returns from asteroids returned to Earth, and from the samples from the moon returned to Earth. We have 3 missions to Mars, which are very, very soon actually arriving at Mars. And when you look at the trends, the deep space exploration and technology market, and as we talk about the cislunar, also ecosystem, there is what we expect is a significant growth. So, and I think, what role does ISU play in building, the workforce for the space exploration sector in the future? That is a little bit also a question connected to the frontiers, which has been asked several times here in the chat. And is there anybody, I think it's an important question, because we had such an unprecedented year and 3 missions to Mars arriving in a month. Is there anybody who would like to say a little bit about that? With this, I think, question we have to close, and we'll continue then into the programs. No, nobody wants to be the first. This is really to all of you. If you have a small messages, because I think it is a really important topic. We have the space applications, of course, but also I think space exploration has made amazing strides. And
yes,
maybe
Pascal, if you want me,
yeah,
if you want me to
yes,
add something, you were asking for someone to comment. So really, the space exploration, and I was saying human robotic and exploration is taking off, and also because we are looking in the future to have the use and of space resource, and going back to the moon, going eventually to Mars, and how do we there also use the resource in situ in space to go even further. And so that's things that, again, there is a collaborative effort of institution and private players to be able to start imagining how the life in the moon and how we can manufacture things, and how, and therefore you can imagine as well that there is a full pan of policy and law that go with it, and how do we use space in a spaceful way that is starting to be explored as we speak by all the players.
Wonderful. Bob, next one.
Maybe just a brief comment.
Yeah.
And so being in the space community, all of us, we often get asked by people who are not so familiar or maybe bought into the vision that we all have of space, is why are we spending so much money in space when there are so many problems here on Earth? It's a common question that we often have to address. And I just wanted to make the point for those watching and maybe learning about this for the first time, is that by going into space, we actually learn about planet Earth. Not just the sense of perspective by looking back on the beautiful blue marble and a lot of Apollo, maybe its lasting impact beyond the technological thresholds that it broke, but the emotional threshold that it broke with humanity, to look back on Earth, that still is with us. But when we go to other worlds, Moon, Mars, otherwise, we are able to have more than one data set about how planets work and how planets interact with space and with our solar system and all the radiation. And by studying Mars, even though it's a distant planet, we have learned about planet Earth. We've learned about how climate change is impacted by particulates in the atmosphere. We've learned so much. So we do need more than one example of a planet and how it works as a life ecosystem for the survival of the human species and all life on Earth. So by going into space, we do learn about planet Earth, and the little bit of investment that we're making as a species into this future, into space, is just so important for all of us here on planet Earth.
That is very well said. Val. Well, do you have some kind of a statement to this?
Do you want me to make a generic statement on this point? A generic statement.
Oh, sorry, I just muted myself. And thanks. Yes, I think it. It is obvious. That we need with all these exciting things going on in space, on the application side, on the space exploration side, on the spillover effects to other sectors. I think it's really crucial. We need a workforce. We don't have enough people working in all those subjects, and that's why the education is also so important. And for whatever aspect you still would like to make a short statement, it would be great. I would be grateful.
Yeah, so Pascal, I'll just speak around the entrepreneurship aspect. So from a Senza perspective, we offer bursaries and scholarships to students to undertake postgraduate studies. And in fact, we house about 25 students on site that's supervised by our staff. In fact, our chief scientist published a paper in Nature last week. So there's a lot of phenomenal research that's going on behind the scenes. And we're also setting up industry clusters. It's amazing because 2020 was a difficult year globally. But for the space sector in South Africa, I think our budget is increased by 15 times what we've been used to, because we managed to secure investments in this difficult space. And purely because it demonstrated the value proposition of space in the middle of a pandemic, and what it could do during the pandemic. And we demonstrated the value proposition. And so we're also setting up a Women in Space because we're trying to focus in terms of addressing the gender parity. And we're also setting up what is called Centers of Competence. So it's a networked arrangement of different institutions with different expertise coming together to look at specific technology platforms, let's say optronic sensors in satellites. And so we're trying to get that more into the commercial domain because we have a good optronics capability in the country. So we're bringing in new students to come in inside of the industry cluster, entrepreneurship happening. So there's all sorts of new ideas coming through as well. So we're quite excited about what's going on.
Thank you, Val. I think it's also very important because we have quite a lot of participants also here from Africa in these sessions. I'm sure they will contact you all. So my final request for a statement and maybe to some of the things which we discussed, or in particular also about space exploration, goes to Chris.
Thanks, Pascal. Yeah, space exploration is definitely a really important part of the space, increasingly important part of the space world. And there are many ways you can break down space, but if you broadly break it into three groups, I would say telecommunications is an extremely important economic driver of space activities and has been for many years. Earth observation broadly and applications ends up being another area. And the newest of the three perhaps is space exploration in terms of the percentage of space activities and its impact. And so all of those areas are important for space. Personally, space exploration has been closest to my heart, and it's where I built my career. And it is, I think it is starting to have quite an impact on the space world and is being recognized as such. We just heard from Val how that was recognized in South Africa. I can tell you in Canada, where the company that I founded is located, our company focuses mainly on lunar activities, development of technologies and missions for the moon. But we've been granted a special exemption to be open during the pandemic because it was felt the work we were doing was so critical for Canada and internationally. And so I think there's a recognition of the importance of space exploration and what it brings broadly to humanity, not just to the space world. And again, perhaps I close with a comment that if that interests you, space exploration or space activities, but also perhaps telecommunications and bringing the world together where space plays such a critical area, or Earth observation and applications. Again, the real benefits of space are often coming through that side. If any of those areas interest you or you're thinking about a career in that area, please do think about the International Space University. I can tell you from personal experience and from many people I've talked to, it really has been the door opening opportunity that has let them have a successful career in space.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I think this was a wonderful closing statement. I could not say it better. That's what ISU offers, a really complete international, interdisciplinary space education where all aspects of space are taught, and you can be an expert and then move into the direction where you want to go. And I think we have tried to convince you, and I want to thank the panel very much, how important it is and how fruitful it could be to have a space education at ISU. So I want, we have unfortunately lost Jim Green in translation, and maybe he will be in the American program speaking. I'm really sorry, this is due to computer problems, but for the rest, I think it was a very lively and very honest, from the heart panel. I want to thank all the esteemed speakers of this panel. You have truly inspired all our participants around the world, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pascal.
Yeah.
Thank you.